That's a wrinkle that I would just personally, as a fan of pickleball, love to watch. I would love to watch like a Riley Newman, call it like a whatever the equivalent in pickleball of the clay court season. I would love to see him go out and battle on a slower surface or a slower ball or a slower paddle versus other guys, and also see it the opposite of that and see the whatever the grass court season.
Completely agree. Like Gabe Tardio beat Riley Newman on clay courts, and Riley Newman beat Gabe Tardio on grass courts. Like that would add a unique thing. And there's no 100% right. I mean, you still have like a random Callan Dawson getting a big win in a tournament. He's never hit a topspin shot in his life. It doesn't matter what the paddle is. He's got a short hop and he's just consistent. And he'll randomly give a player that's ranked higher than him trouble. There is no right or wrong. There's just more right and more wrong than what it used to be.
Because you know why?
Why?
Because it feels right.
It feels right.
Legendary.
So here we are recording on a Sunday morning, and we're going to talk a lot about general strategy and how the game's changed from, Adam, what year did you start?
It's a great question.
2017, 16, 18, 16, 17?
I think I first struck a ball in 16 or 17, and then I played it. I know the first real tournament I played was the last Nationals at Casa Grande in Arizona.
Oh, and there's some good stories there, right? Of like people jumping the fence and just walking off into the desert.
No, I believe that was actually the first Indian Wells. You're referring to Zane Affleck.
Nope. I'm referring
Joey
to
Farias.
I'm referring to Kyle Yates, who I think suffered a loss and then like climbed over the wall at Casa Grande and then just walked.
That could be it. Maybe that was first round singles that I played him. where he I mean it was pretty wild to watch all these dudes play YouTube, and then I end up beating Kyle first round and that singles and of course I ended up cramping and he ended up finishing higher than me in the tournament because we had the comeback through. But that's whatever.
That's crazy. That never happens to you.
Yeah. Absolutely not. But that was a wild tournament, and I miss the old times. So
so call it 17, 16, whatever. You've seen the transition of the game go from what it was then. You can even watch old YouTube videos, and the game's changed drastically. It's gone to more of it's due to the paddles, I would say, primarily. Some athlete wise, higher level tennis players coming in, but mainly you can't do back then what you can do with the paddles now. That's the big difference, in my opinion. If the paddles could have done what they do now back then, players know how to hit topspin forehands. They would have done it. You just couldn't do it back then because the ball would slide right off that paddle.
Right off.
But with that, a lot of aspects of how the game's played, what the strategy is, how to win points. Strategically, it's changed the game big time. So this episode is kind of dedicated to talking about not only like what's changed and where we're going and where we're at, but also like how to use it to your favor, right? How to adjust your own game to like what you need to implement to stay with the times, especially if you've been playing for a long time, right? Because you've seen the shift of, we only drop, we only reset in the midcourt, we only stay soft until we get a high. Like a lot of the basic fundamentals are still intact, but a lot of it's changed. You have to adjust, and if you're not adjusting, you're probably leaving a lot of free points on the table.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I tennis and pickleball Venn diagram, there is overlap, but now the overlap is more significant. With basically being able to hold your technique and making a slight adjustment instead of completely overhauling your technique. Like you just can't. You used to be able to swing like a tennis player and it work out for you. Now you can. So Yeah, I think that it's an easier transition to come over from a technical standpoint and the mechanical standpoint of it. And yeah, I agree completely. Like there's no, it's not solved. You don't know. Uh, there's no hard nose like there used to be. Like I just remember hitting a third shot. Didn't matter if it was floaty or not, but if it was good enough, I could just come in hot. And every single shot that I would have from that point forward, or when I was moving forward, it was above my waist.
100%.
So I could just swat flies, swing through. As long as I made an early, quick read about how good my third shot was or my partner's, I could just come in hot. And now,
The other thing, Adam, on that note, which you were always really good at as well, was if you weren't coming in hot, swinging away, and you saw the trajectory, like that ball is always going out. You know, if they're winding up off the bounce,
yes,
hitting a fourth hard off the bounce, it's you just let it go. Now it's we've talked about this in the past. It's you have to recalibrate everything in terms of that full swing that they're taking. The ball could land 6 feet in. You know, so
yeah, I agree. There was certain variables. If like 3 of the boxes were checked, the ball is out. And there was
yeah,
just so many players that were so good at letting out balls go out. And now you're like second guessing yourself because you get the big loop, you get the big swing, you get this ball from a low position, you bail out, and like you said, it's 3 feet in, and then that starts getting in your head. So it really, the kind of chain reaction there is going body is better. Like
yeah,
going body has always been a quality option as long as you don't do it too much. But now these people that are great at letting the ball go out, they're just not sure what's going on. So if you
yeah.
go up in this upper chest, neck, shoulders area, I mean, you just let it fly. Trust your hands from that point on.
Less time too, Adam, with the
You can't read. Yeah,
with how hot the paddles are. Like that millisecond matters so much in terms of getting out of the way, and like it's a legit strategy now that we see a lot. We see it just happening over and over because it is so hard, especially for bigger guys to really move off ball coming off these paddles off a full forehand swing.
yeah, no, yeah. There's no question about it. And of course, you know, like it's just it's just your contact point when people are hitting the ball. Like you can be forced to reach or go low from such wild positions. So,
Yeah,
you know, it could be driving from the midcourt. It could be an aggressive dink roll. There's so many ways that you're forced to bend, and the ball can come off their paddle with pace and still be dipping. And
yeah,
that was not the case. So athleticism is even more important. I remember people used to just hit a floaty return and walk forward, even good players, to
yeah,
the kitchen line, because you could not be hitting up on a first volley if you were reasonably close to the kitchen line. Now you can be tight to the kitchen, you can be a tall individual reaching in, and you are hitting up on a drive from your opponent's third shot. Like that
yep.
is night and day what it used to be. And completely different skill sets compared to what it used to be are effective now.
Another kind of situation where that's happening is you're seeing off of you have 4 people at the kitchen, dink rally. You could never ever have a ball off a bounce, a dink off a bounce that you're hitting a top spin lob on. Never. That would
Right.
never happen. It would never work. It would never go in. But now it's you're seeing it a lot, right? I think the lobs made a pretty big comeback. Watch some of the APP Sacramento, and you know, especially in the women's doubles. You got Susanna who lobs a lot, Bobby Oshiro who lobs a lot, and effectively. So, and you're seeing it on the guy side. You know, I don't know how many times I've seen Tardio hit a top spin lob off a dink bounce. You know, it's a real strategy now, and I like where the game's going. I like that aspect of it because that's not, to me, it's not just like blowing somebody off the court. It's tactical. It's more strategic. It's how can we use every bit of this court to my advantage versus how can I just like, tag somebody.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah,
yeah, that's a lot of that is gone. There will always be strategy in pickleball, but it's not as it's not as elaborate as it used to be. It's just I'm gonna Christian Alshon you
Yeah.
and hit it at your throat and just be super athletic and whatever. And putting balls in places, chess game of setting up 5 moves ahead. That's basically over. It's quick hitting 1 or 2 shot combinations and that kind of style. And Rob, I'm kind of waiting for third shot topspin lobs and then drive from a variety of positions on the court after that. I think that's already a great strategy for senior pro in a lot of situations. I watched Zane Ford play some rec game, new up and comer, and he's throwing in third shot lobs all the time and then being athletic and long and driving the next ball, push your opponents off of the line and then hard and low after that point. So
coming in with swinging volleys off of their overhead.
Yes, swinging. That's right.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to when you have the margin for error, you have the pace, and you have the spin. So yeah, there was a time where you could go 250 shots without driving something from the midcourt.
Yeah.
It was just 5th, 7th, 9th, whatever the case may be. You had to play soft or you were going to lose 70+% of the points. And it's just gone. It's just gone. Like you don't even have to swing through from the midcourt on high balls. You can do it from waist high or possibly even a little bit below. If your
ball's staying low. Yeah,
your paddle head speed is good enough. The dip that you get on the ball doesn't allow your opponent to do this, then go for it. I mean, I can't imagine. I haven't done coaching and teaching are very different. Teaching is more lower levels, coaching is more higher levels. But a clinic that I used to do three years ago to now would just be so drastically different. And if you're teaching the exact same way as you were 2 or 3 years ago, then you probably shouldn't have a clientele.
Like one of the best one of the most fun things to do from the midcourt now is you maybe reset that first one, and then depending on the ball they give you, if it's kind of stomach level or above, like you can take full rips, and it's basically you're just hitting a topspin drive at them. That's they're going to miss more often than not in terms of, are they going to miss that, or are they going to miss you trying to hit a perfect reset in the kitchen? You know what I mean? So it's like you want to get to the kitchen, obviously, but there's not just one way to get there anymore, which it used to be just one way to get there. And it's hitting a perfect reset, which you did a lot of, Adam. That's how you got every medal, just reset in the kitchen.
Over and over and over again.
But I could have seen you with the paddles now, you in the midcourt. I could still see, I think maybe not on the backhand side, but on the forehand side, you could do some damage when you're getting a kind of a dead ball from the midcourt. You could have done some damage and had your big fella come in and crash, and that'd be a legit strategy. I think your game would have adjusted just fine. I think you and I are similar in terms of like what I'm thinking about now in terms of eventually getting back on court, and what I need to improve on is in terms of training. I always think about like, what constraints can I place on myself today in practice to really focus on just like one skill? And I think one I'm going to start doing is like, I'm not allowed to hit a one-handed backhand anything. It's got to be a 2 drop. It's got to be 2 midcourt. It's got to be 2 counters, 2 block, 2 dink, like just 2 hands off everything. Not because that's how I'm going to play, but because if I don't develop that, I'm going to get left behind, right? It's like everybody, like you have to have all the shots. It's not okay. Like if you look at any of the top players now, especially ones that used to only hit kind of that one-handed dink. You look at Andre's one that's done a very good job developing the 2. He's 99% pulling the ball, like pulling the trigger when he's going to 2 from the kitchen line, but he still can dink it now, and he's putting 2 on even drops. So it's just something he's worked on, where he used to be just 1 all the time. And you're seeing that with a lot of guys. Like you're having to develop these weapons, and 2 versus 1 on the backhand. It's just so much easier to disguise when you are attacking. So it's a crucial shot. So just think about the things we have to develop, Adam, or not just us, but like players that have been around longer and seen like what's worked for them, and then they kind of like you don't change, right? Because you're like, well, this has worked for me for so long. And then like, you're just committed to the bit, and then you're starting to get past. It's like, innovate or die. You gotta keep developing yourself. You gotta keep developing new shots, or you're gonna get past. So just things I'm thinking about, as I'm hopefully gonna train again and get back on courts. Like, those are the things that, I want to work on. I want to get better at, because, you got to have all the shots. We've talked about this, like from the kitchen line, like nobody better in the world hitting every single shot and having every shot be disguised than Annalie Waters. Her backhand roll could be a rip, could be a dink cross court, could be a dink line, could be a lob. Like, the disguise she has on both wings is bananas, and I think that's what makes her so good.
Yeah, I
She's
agree.
been doing that since the beginning too. Like, really.
Yeah. Adapt or die. That there is no question about it.
Selkirk court strike, lightweight, breathable,
seamless.
So what I do like is the all one color. It's a nice style.
Yeah, it looks good.
These are available.
Rob, 6-month sole guarantee too, which is super important for me because I'm an explosive athlete and a high-end mover, world-class foot speed and footwork. So sometimes I just blow through the soles. I like to tie my shoes really tight, and sometimes I get the loop of the tie and I slide on that and it rips, and I hate it when that happens. Seems to be my left big toe area, just sole gone. So to have that for 6 months is something that I need. When I started men's pro level players, less than 10% had a two-handed backhand on any shot.
Mm-hmm.
And now I honestly think it's 85 plus, 90 plus %. Like, that is,
Agreed.
We're only talking 5 years here, 5 or 6 years here. And that is the difference. You have to have spin. And back then too, it was, you didn't have to be good at everything. It's like now you need offense off the bounce on both wings. You need offense out of the air on both wings. You need counter attacks with two hand in space. You need one hander from your chest. You need all of it. Like, you didn't just have one or two strengths and you just focus on it and you win matches. You can medal with one or two strengths like you could back in the day. No. That's not real. If there's safe zones or spots that you can't pull, I don't care how good you are at everything else. It's just not going to work out. And I have in my notes here, I'm going to talk about an example, and I love this guy, but his level has dipped, and that's Riley Newman.
Yeah.
And he has been a victim of a lot of the new paddle technology and the new type of athlete coming into the game, because he, first and foremost, is extremely defensive in his style and his ball making ability. Now there's more spin, now there's more pace, more difficult to rely on defense. And also he has that special pancake grip. And back in the day, if your soft game was good enough and people fired at you, Riley was hitting all of his counterattacks above his waist.
Yep.
And he was hitting them down, and he was doing like this.
Such a good point.
And now Riley lines up with that forehand pancake, and some guy takes this big loopy swing, and that ball is now coming at his hips or below his waist.
Caught at the hip all the time now.
And back in the day, that was not possible. So it was you either continue dinking with him, or he hits a pancake if you try to speed up. Now he's pretzeled up, he's twisted up. Sure, he still hits some good ones, but the way that people can dink aggressively against him, they can put the ball away against him, and they can attack him from the kitchen line and not allow him to pancake the counterattacks. It has completely affected. He went from a clear-cut number 2 to whatever, top 15 or something like that in the matter of a year and a half, or 2 years. So that's just an example, not picking on him, still a great player, but that's what takes you from being, on the precipice of becoming the best in the world to just being a good player. And that has a lot to do with it. The balls that are coming his way, the paddle technology, and of course, the athleticism and type of player that is in the mix now.
Yeah. And to give him credit, he was kind of one of the first to hit strictly two-handed backhand dinks on the backhand side, and effectively didn't miss it much. Wasn't super offensive with it. Like, it wasn't going to put a lot of pressure on you, but just super consistent and just rarely missed. And you could see that too. Like when he would take balls, he started doing it kind of, I don't want to say more recently, but like when he was like that clear cut number two, I think what got him there was being able to use that backhand off the bounce to start attacking more because it was disguised. Whereas in the past, he would just strictly dink and just dare you to speed up at him. And he was able to, with the paddles then, he was able to move and shift his body to where everything was almost a pancake. It was hard to get at any spot that wasn't a pancake because the ball wouldn't come down. I remember learning that lesson a lot. Not fun. But Adam, if you're coaching Riley Newman today, he calls you up and he's like, Stone, heard your episode on how the game's changed. Obviously, I know this. What do you think I can do to get back to where I want to be, which is a clear cut number two? What needs to change in my game? What do I need to work on? What would you coach Riley on?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't think it can be an overhaul situation. It's not like he's going to, switch over to continental grip or anything like that after being whatever.
But shit, maybe that's what it takes at this point. Honestly, right? I think.
Yeah. Maybe it's too extreme, and maybe he needs to pick the situation to where he can stick with the pancake. But a lot of other situations leading up to that point, he could twist the grip over a little bit to a more of an Eastern or something like that. He's not going to go continental, like that's the extreme version. But I think that it's I think that it's more rely on the defense when you have to, instead of that being pretty high on your list of a way to win matches. So it's becoming more offensive minded in general and finding a better forehand speed up off the bounce and out of the air. I think the backhand is probably fine in that regard.
Agreed.
Especially when he's playing on the left and firing it up the line. But it's the situations when that cleanup and the counterattacks, he might have to make a tweak to the grip or to the technique that he uses, because that's exactly what it was, Rob. It was dare to speed up at me 3 years ago, and now it's like, damn, they're speeding up at me. So it's changed a lot.
Another place where he would also dare you, which you just can't do anymore, you can't get away with it, and this is how the game's changed as well, is his third. His third was always very high. It would always clear the net by a few feet, never miss. Like, I mean, talking 100%. I rarely miss a third because he would just put so much air under it. And then it would bounce up to where, call it 3 years ago, you're trying to take that fourth off the bounce and do something. He's coming in. He's going to hit a ball from waist level or above, and he's going to be in a good spot with it. He has great hands. Now you can have that same ball that's bouncing, coming up above the net level, and you can dip that thing wherever you want. You can roll it off the court. There's just so much more pressure. And that same third is a huge liability now. So I think he needs to develop more of like a sharp drop. He needs to either get that thing to land more softly if he's chipping it. But, the daring people to speed up at you nowadays, not going to work with how good the paddles are.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a big part of it for me too. I was more of a slice or a bump third shot, fifth shot guy. And like you almost have to have a roll third shot now. And Riley was the same way. Like you said, he would get real low at that knee bend and slice the forehand drop and it would float up, but he's so athletic and so long, it didn't really matter. So he would get there on the fifth or the seventh or whatever the case may be, even if that ball sat up. But now, and it's not just the margin for error on the fourth and the six shots and beyond. It's the extra spin. It's harder to short hop. It's harder to handle those balls with extra pace and extra spin. You can't just assume, I'm just going to half volley this in the midcourt and get up to the kitchen 98% of the time. That's just not the case anymore with the quality of those shots that people are hitting. So that's just another example of, you have to switch it up. You have to have a roll third, and it's nice to have it on both sides. If you're just bumping the ball or slicing exclusively, it's just not going to get it done with how good everyone is.
Adam, I'd say not just a roll third. Yes, a roll third. But you have to have a roll everything now. You have to have a
Yeah.
roll backhand dink, a roll forehand dink. You have to, one thing that, like, historically from the midcourt, you're pretty much short hopping, just trying to like soften the hands. What I'm finding also kind of with the paddles nowadays is that on my forehand midcourt reset, it's honestly easier for me to hit like a topspin roll reset back, you know, where I'm just like softening the hands, dropping the tip, and then just bunting it back over. But it's coming over and it has the dip, it has the topspin rotation on it versus just trying to bunt it over. And I think that used to never be the case. And I don't think that's purely just like a technique change or a shot change. I think the paddles lend themselves to that. They're poppy, they're they have a lot of deflection. It's hard to like really soften the hands to the point where you're bunting it perfectly in the kitchen. It's easier to just
Need the spin.
use some spin on it and have that thing dip down on its own. So that's a little bit of an adjustment that I've been making on the forehand side, at least. Backhand, I can't even imagine hitting a two-handed backhand roll mid-court reset. That seems absurd.
Yeah, that's what people do.
Leave that one in the bag, but
yeah, right. And yeah, no, I agree with you completely. You need that spin from all. It creates so much. Margin for error aside, there's the benefits are endless of getting that top spin. And
a big one is like people overextend a lot at the kitchen, for those force. They're like, okay, this is up and off, and then it dips last second, and then they're hitting it from below the net. It creates some indecision as well. I had a question when you were talking about the Riley stuff, Adam, just in terms of like the defensive game versus the offensive game. Riley Newman's always been a world-class defensive player. Nobody better. Him and his sister kind of, they wrote the book on it, right? They would get every ball back. Very fun to watch. They're so scrappy. Riley would be in the second row running a ball down, at Darling Tennis Center. Lindsay would be off the court somewhere. The court's wide open. And it created really, really fun points, in my opinion. Where do you think we're at, Adam? I know where we're at, but do you think we're missing a really important, crucial element of pickleball where the world's best defensive players are basically, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you are at defense anymore. Really, it really doesn't. Because it's impossible to reset enough times to where you can come in and, reset the point, right? Like if somebody has big offense, they're just going to keep chipping away at you and, they're going to exploit you. So do you feel like we're missing an element of the game, Adam, at the pro level where having world-class defense isn't rewarded as it should be?
Yeah, I think missing is probably the wrong word. It's not as prevalent. You still have the Tyra Blacks and the people that are having those chaotic points. But that, I do agree with you. Like at all four players at the line, one team gets pushed off, crazy gets athleticism, they get back to the line. That's happening at a lower clip than it used to. It just is. So, I like those contrasting styles, the fire and the ice, the defense versus the offense, like all of that stuff. But just the deflection, the ability to put away and the spin to not allow those points to extend is something that happens. And it's just not happening as much as it used to. We still have some special players out there that get it done. And also now when you see the scramble points, it's drop, 3 hard drives, 2 defensive lobs, another drop. And like there's a lot of different things going on at the back of the court as opposed to just a team dropping 35 times in a row trying to get forward. So and that's often what it takes in those scramble points is handful of drops, couple lobs, and then it's one really good hard and low drive that the team doesn't get their cleanest volley on, and that allows you to get forward. So that never used to be the case. It was just a win the point 20% of the time situation if you were just driving away from the back of the court. So that's what I notice when I'm calling matches. Scramble, one good hard and low one, and that's what gets you forward. It's not the drop. It's the hard and low one that gets you in, not the drop on the defensive points.
That's fascinating too, right? It's like like if you're a player that's been playing for the past few years and you've taken lessons over that time and you've been taught what you've been taught, you haven't been taught to do that. I almost guarantee
No,
it, right? You haven't been
no.
taught to hit hard drives when you're scrambling. Um, but you're absolutely correct because it's to like even if that third gets down, it's going to bounce to a reasonable height where you can like good players are able to roll that hard and keep you back again, right? Like you're absolutely right. The best chance is to hit a good low drive where they hit a weak volley where then you can really come into the midcourt and hit a nice easy drop to get in. But that it's changed so much. It's so hard to get in from just purely drops now because guys can and gals can just rip off the bounce.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. These conversations are fun to talk about it.
Yeah.
A lot of newbies that they can't have this conversation because
But
from day one they've been rolling and playing
yeah.
tennis on a pickleball court basically from day one, and so it's always fun to get the OGs together and chat about the shifts in strategy. And I know it's been a few years, but like on the scale, I just always think about other big sports.
Yeah.
It took some of them. It took 50 or 60 years to like figure
Yeah.
it out, and like we're talking like year 3 or 4 from
Yeah.
where it used to be. And so like to see those changes, and maybe it doesn't seem like in rapid succession. It's all happening very quickly in the overall grand scheme of the timeline of the sport.
And we've talked a lot about comparisons in the past, Adam, like comparing to tennis, and like I do go back and think like there's a place for all of it, in my opinion. Like we don't have to all have it figured out in a single event, a single match. Like there's a reason tennis has clay court season where it really suits guys that play slow and that can grind and that have the stamina to just play forever. There's grass court, which very fast suits a certain style of play. Hard court, very fast. So I think that's where we need to go in pickle, in my opinion, is we don't necessarily need to dial back paddles. We can create different environments where play is adjusted and everybody kind of gets their season to go after it. And that would, that's a wrinkle that I would just personally, as a fan of pickleball, love to watch. I would love to watch like a Riley Newman, call it like a whatever the equivalent in pickleball of the clay court season. I would love to see him go out and battle on a slower surface or a slower ball or a slower paddle versus other guys, and also see it, the opposite of that, and see the whatever the grass court season.
Completely agree. Like so,
he's so fun.
Gabe Tardio beat Riley Newman on clay courts, and Riley Newman beat Gabe Tardio on grass courts. Like that would add a unique thing. And I still agree. There's no 100% right. I mean, you still have like a random Callan Dawson getting a big win in a tournament who is just short hop. He's never hit a topspin shot in his life. It doesn't matter what the paddle is. And he's just got a punch. He's got a short hop, and he's just consistent. And he'll randomly give a player that's ranked higher than him trouble because of the ball making ability. So there is no right or wrong. There's just more right and more wrong than what it used to be. So that's once there's a 100% right, that kind of sucks. And maybe we'll get there one day, but we're not there yet.
I agree. And I think, just to wrap this up, this is a fun segment. We should make this a regular thing. But one thing that I've always said, and I, even with the game changing, I still stand by this, is I think almost everybody, if you have the physical ability and coordination and hand-eye to get to a 5.0 level, like if that's in your being, it's not in everybody's being, right? Some people just don't have good hand-eye. They love the game. But if you have the ability to get to a 5.0 level plus, I still believe, even with how the game's changed, that you can do that by being a Callan Dawson, by being a rock that just makes a ton of balls. You don't have to come in and do everything that we're talking about speeding up at midcourt, about, you don't have to have that. You can still get to a very high level by being a Callan Dawson. Agree or disagree, Adam?
I do agree. And I think that's a perfect lead in to our next segment that we're gonna do, where Callan Dawson is one of the topics of conversation. What exactly are we gonna do for this next segment, Robert? Let's
we'll just tease it out a little bit. We'll tease it out. Yes,
tease
yes.
it out.
Just tease it out. Tease out your hair a little bit. Your hair looks great too. That also ties into what we're going to talk about, Adam, is how attractive men are, just generally speaking.
Let's go.
And including yourself. So we were inspired. Big shout out to fellow Selkirk player and advocate Jack Sock. Love their podcast. Nothing major. Hilarious. Sam Query, Stevie Johnson, John
Love
Isner,
that guy. Query,
Jack Sock,
champ.
Dude, why didn't Sam have a personality in tennis though?
I don't know, because I played rec with him at this last tournament in Mesa, and he was a joy.
Oh, so funny, dude. So absolute joy. Maybe he obviously likes pickleball more, has more fun.
I gave him a third nipple too, right up here. Yeah, I got him good. I got him real good.
You don't know nothing about that 2016 pickle.
Oh yeah, he was fading off the court to look for an Ernie, and I just tagged him right up under the armpit.
To be fair, Adam, when you were starting pickleball, he was probably on center court at Wimbledon, but neither here nor there.
Yeah,
so
whatever. Decent.
Was inspired by their pod, and they did a hotties bracket of the top male tennis players in the world based on hotness and attractiveness, and we're doing something similar with a little bit of a twist. It's kind of a more all-encompassing, Mullen hates that I say compass. You say compass? I say compass. I know I'm probably wrong here. There's a lot of words I say jacked up, but encompassing, it encompasses, I can't stop saying it, not just hotness, but like more like swag, talk, kind of, I don't want to say aura, but like we have a list of everything and how it's weighted out, but attractiveness, swag, talk makes up like 98% of where the seeds are going to fall. 32 player bracket, all beautiful, hunky, studly men. And we're going to dig into it next episode. We're going to talk about why people are where they are. Adam, Adam might have some disagreements. I want to hear them. I might have left some people off. I want to hear it. And then we'll do some arguments, counter arguments. And then what we're going to do, Adam, is we are going to actually put this out and we're going to do fan voting. And we're going to put this on our Instagram stories, have a poll, and we're going to do a hot off, basically. Stud v stud.
Boom.
I was going to say stud on stud, but stud v stud. And we'll see how the chips fall. But fun episode, Perfect. Adam. Can't wait to do this one again. It's fun talking about strategy.
Boom.
Boom.